Oh, it started. Wait till you see this new real estate information coming up. What's going on, my YouTube friends? This is Jerry Abbott, your #1 real estate resource here in beautiful Las Vegas. Hey guys, a couple of quick things before we dive into the video. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to learn the cold hard facts about the Las Vegas real estate market and real estate in general, then definitely subscribe to the channel down below. Number two, make sure to give me a thumbs up like too, guys. That would really help the channel out. And number three, if you are thinking about relocating to beautiful Las Vegas, whether it's next month or next year, I've got your back. I'm a local real estate agent here. I've lived here for nearly 20 years. I know every inch of the city. When the time is right for you, just call, text, or email me anytime, and I'll help you find that perfect dream home. Let's dive into the video. All right, so some of you might be wondering what I meant in that intro when I said it started. What I meant by that is that the overall real estate market is finally starting to show some cracks. And in the upcoming segments, I'm going to show you guys why waiting later this year and potentially well into 2024 before we see those meaningful price drops is the best bet if you're thinking about buying a home.
Today, we took another step by raising our policy interest rate a 1/4 percentage point, and we are continuing to reduce our securities holdings at a brisk pace. We've covered a lot of ground, and the full effects of our tightening have yet to be felt. Looking ahead, we will continue to take a data-dependent approach in determining the extent of additional policy firming that may be appropriate.
All right, so that was Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman, last week making the announcement that the Fed has just raised rates again another 1/4 point. But there's a couple of key takeaways there towards the end of the message. He talks about how all of the previous rate hikes have still yet to be felt throughout the entire economy, and that's why they're keeping the door open to even more rate hikes. That's why I think the real pain through the economy, especially on expensive purchases like homes and cars, has really yet to be felt. That is going to be felt more likely at the end of this year and into 2024 as the Fed keeps raising rates. All right, so I want you guys to take a look at this short 30-second video clip from a JP Morgan asset manager being interviewed and talking about how he thinks the U.S. is likely headed for a recession at the end of 2023 and early 2024. I'm going to come back on the other side and comment on it right after we take a look at it.
So we think that the U.S., however, we think is probably likely headed to a recession towards the end of this year, start of 2024. We think the primary driving force of that is going to be tightening credit conditions as bank balance sheets, particularly among U.S. regionals, remain somewhat flawed and still have to be repaired in order to get bank lending going again. So we think that the drying up of credit conditions will be what will bring the U.S. to a recession at the end of this year, start of next year.
All right, so when JP Morgan analysts start talking about a potential recession at the end of this year and into early 2024, that's something you need to pay attention to. These are the big banks. They're privy to certain information, and it backs up what I've been saying in the last couple of months on my videos talking about how I think the full effects of these rate hikes have not yet hit the economy, like I just showed you in the previous segment, that those effects are going to really start to take place at the end of this year and into early 2024. And if credit tightens, that means there's going to be less people that qualify to buy expensive items like homes and cars, and that's going to have a big hit on the overall economy. All right, so now let's drill down specifically into real estate. I want you guys to take a look at this chart. This is the median sales prices of the houses sold throughout the United States. Now, again, I've showed you guys this in the past, but I want to show you this right here. This goes back about 10 years. You can see, again, it's pretty flat about 10 years ago, starting to kind of slightly elevate, a little bit jagged around here in that 2018, 2019 period. And then again, right as the pandemic hit, right where I'm moving the arrow, look what happens. It spikes all the way up. This is unprecedented appreciation throughout the course of the entire real estate market. But now take a look. See right here? That's what I mean when I say it started. Right here is we're starting to see that downtrend. Now, again, like I said before, this does not mean we're going to get all the way back down to these pre-pandemic levels. But again, this top part, this is the peak. This is the starting point of the down cycle. Now, even though things have been stronger this summer, this is kind of like a pause, in my opinion, to this down cycle before we start to have another leg down. That's what I think is going to happen across the board nationally, and especially here in Las Vegas. All right, so let's talk about mortgage rates, because a lot of people keep talking about in the news that we're getting close to 7%, but that is really not accurate at all. The aggregate number from most borrowers is around 8% now. In fact, I want you guys to take a look at this website here. I've shown it to you in the past. I want to show you the updated version here. You can see right here it says ending the week of July 28th, take a look right there where that little blue dot is where it says 30-year fixed. It says 7.87%. That's the aggregate number. Most people are actually at 8% or higher right now, because if you take a look at the credit score right here in this drop-down menu, you can see all the different credit scores here that goes all the way from on the upper 8s all the way down to the low 6s. The check mark here is between 7 and 719, because the 7 to 719 is the aggregate average credit score for most borrowers. So again, you get to an average interest rate here, or mortgage rate, of about 8%. And I want to show you the stunning amount of interest that people are paying now at 8% compared to just a couple of years ago in the next segment. All right, so these next couple of graphics that I created are really going to blow your mind. Take a look at that top line, which says both are $2,900 per month. So basically, if you bought a home right now in 2023, you can see a $400,000 home financed at 8% would put you at about $2,900 per month. In 2021, right at the bottom there, you can see that you could have bought a $700,000 home financed at that rate at that time at 3%. So you've lost close to 40% of your purchasing power just in the last 2 years because of what happened with interest rates. And in the next segment, I want to show you these same two examples and how much difference the interest is, and how that's going to absolutely blow your mind as to how much more you're paying at 8% versus 3%. So there's 3 specific points that I want to make using this specific example. The first one is that if you can afford an example like this in terms of a $2,900 a month payment, at the very least 2 years ago, you could afford a much more expensive home at around $700,000 with a 3% interest rate, compared to now where you have to sacrifice, which of course most people don't want to have to do, and downgrade to a home price at $400,000 because the interest rate is 8%. So the second point that I want to make here is if you take a look at this column right here on the left side where it says 2951 and 2935, whether it's for the more expensive home or the less expensive home, this is just principal and interest. So again, your payment would be well over $3,000 for either one of these homes. And again, if you use a normal debt to income ratio of no more than about a third of your total gross income, you need to be making at least $150,000 or more to afford these homes. Now again, you don't have to buy a $700,000 home, but even though we're using this as an apples to apples comparison, even on the less expensive home at $400,000, you would have to be making at least $150,000 a year to comfortably afford this kind of home payment. So my third and final point that I want to make using this example is I want you to take a look at this middle column here where it says $362,000 and $656,000. Now obviously you're paying a lot more interest on the total life of the loan at 8% versus 3%, but you're going to be paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest against a 30-year loan. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because a lot of people tell me, well, if you keep renting your whole life, you're never going to build equity because you're never going to own a home. But whether or not you're paying rent or you're paying for a 30-year mortgage, you can see how many hundreds of thousands of dollars it's going to cost you in interest that's not going towards equity. So either way that you slice it, whether it's renting or home ownership, there's a lot of money coming out of pocket that it's not going towards equity. All right, so let's dig into my neck of the woods here in the Las Vegas area of some homes that are for sale. We're on the popular real estate website Zillow. I wanted to show you this first example because I actually had a YouTube subscriber bring this to my attention, and I wanted to share with you guys because it's pretty mind-blowing. Obviously, we're in the luxury space here. We're starting at the luxury level, but we're going to go down to the average price point in just a minute. But take a look here. This home is listed currently at $4 million. It's a beautiful luxury home, but take a look down here where I highlighted this in blue. A little over 6 years ago, this home sold for $900,000. And about 4 years later, the sellers tried listing this for $3.4 million. That's almost a 300% increase in value. That is absolutely unheard of in the history of real estate to get that kind of price appreciation. But if you take a look as we scroll up here to the current price point here, you can see right here in May, they listed it at $4 million. They've had no takers. It's been on the market now for 3 months. I wouldn't advise any of my clients in a million years to buy a home at this kind of price point. This is what I mean about sellers that are still delusional, thinking that they're going to get last year's home prices. That's why I'm saying whether you're a luxury buyer or an average price point buyer, sit tight, wait it out, boycott things like this until prices come down. All right, so let's take a look at this second example of a home for sale in the Las Vegas area. We're definitely coming down in price now. $725,000. You can see right next to my picture is what the current listing is, but they just had a price cut of $15,000 a week ago. So this home was listed at $740,000 recently, now down to $725,000. So they're coming down in price, but more importantly, take a look right there where I'm moving my arrow. If you can't see that, that says $787,000. That was the maximum value in June of 2022. You can see it right underneath my arrow there. A little over a year ago, it was at $787,000. Now take a look right here. The estimated market value right at about $700,000. So if you bought the home a year ago, you would have been paying close to $90,000 more than if you bought it right now. Again, that's why I keep saying, guys, even though everyone keeps thinking home prices keep going up, Las Vegas home prices are down about 8 to 10% from those peak values of last year. And I think especially if you're patient and we get to the end of this year, you're going to see even more price reductions. So let's take a look at this third and final example. Now we're definitely getting down closer to the average price point here in Las Vegas. You can see right next to my picture, this home is currently listed at $499,000, but they just did a pretty decent price cut of $30,000 a week ago. So this home was recently listed at $530,000. It's now down to $499,000. But more importantly, take a look down here in the bottom right. Back in February, the sellers were trying to sell this home for $600,000 and no one's been willing to buy it. They've been dropping the price, $575,000, $554,000, $529,000, and now it's currently listed at $499,000, which just goes to show you there's a lot of sellers out there still looking to try to get last year's prices. There's a lot of homes, as you can see in all these examples that I show you guys every week, that there's still a lot of overpriced homes here in the Las Vegas area. So again, if you're patient, and I especially think coming to the end of this year and into early 2024, there's going to be even better deals to be had because sellers are not going to get these current price levels and they're going to keep reducing as we go through the rest of this year. So just to summarize some of that information, guys, if you do not have to buy a home right now, don't do it. We have near record high home prices. We have 20-year high interest rates. Buying a home right now is the equivalent of running into a burning building. Sit tight, wait things out at least to the end of the year into early 2024. This could take actually well into 2024 before we see real estate prices bottom out. I think the Fed is not done raising rates. That means there's going to be less home buyer demand, more inventory coming to the market, but you got to be patient. I think it's going to be at least to the end of this year and well into 2024 before we see those meaningful price reductions. So before we end today's video, I just want to give a shout out to my favorite comment from last week's video, and that goes to Jason. Now, Jason thinks that the real estate market is going to bottom out in about October 2024 into early 2025. And the more data that I look at, the more I'm starting to agree with this kind of timeline because, again, real estate prices are stubborn to go down. We're not done with interest rate hikes, and that usually has a long lag effect, usually 6 to 12 months after the last of rate hikes. So again, I'm kind of agreeing with this timeline. I think it could take well into 2024 before we finally see real estate prices bottom out. And just remember, guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure to leave me a cool or creative comment down below. And of course, like the video as well. And my favorite comment from this week's video, I'm going to give a direct shout out to in next week's video. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I also hope you appreciate my transparency. Like I've said before, I'm always going to keep it 100% real on this channel regarding the overall real estate market with specific emphasis here in the Las Vegas area. So like I've been advocating in all of my previous videos, guys, if you do not have to buy a home right now, don't do it. Doesn't make sense to do that right now with record high home prices and interest rates. Historically speaking, the best time to buy a home is in the December through February time period. If you can wait things out to at least then and potentially well into 2024, I think there's going to be better buying opportunities. Prices are going to start to come down because there's going to be less buyer demand. I think that's your best bet if you're thinking about buying a home, especially if you're thinking about buying one in Las Vegas. And if you are thinking about relocating to Las Vegas, I've got your back. I'm a local real estate agent. I've lived here for nearly 20 years. I know every inch of this city. When the time is right for you, not right now, but when the time is right, maybe later this year and into 2024, just call, text, or email me anytime, and I'll help you find that perfect dream home. I'll see you guys in the next video.